Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of Ocean Ridge's March meeting. Tracy, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Oscove,
Present.
Vice Mayor Bonfiglio,
Here.
Commissioner Cos.
Here.
Commissioner Magruder.
Here.
And Mayor Pugh.
Here. Okay, can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I guess right now we're going to take a moment of silence for the victims of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. Can you give us about a minute for that, please? Thank you. All right, any additions, deletions, modifications, and the approval of the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
I'd like to change one thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. The,
Having heard nothing.
I know, I was waiting for you guys to say something. Number 5, I'd like to move to the end, if we could. Last thing.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right. Motion second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, public comment. Yes, sir. Come on up, Ted.
Excuse my appearance, I just got off my bike, and thank you for your service. I'm not able to stay, I'm tending to my mom, who's at my house right now. Chief, the no parking anytime signs, what kind of range are they effective for?
Under the Florida Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices, they have a range of visibility, not a specific footage at this point in time.
Okay, the reason I bring this up is I called twice this weekend, once on Saturday. I gave the dispatcher the color, make of the car, where it was located. She said she would have someone look at it. I went to the beach for a couple hours, I came up, it was gone. Same vehicle, Sunday. I said to the dispatcher, I said, are we now, because it was the same vehicle, I said to the dispatcher, are we now allowing the public to park on our streets? And I kind of was flabbergasted at the answer I got. She said, yes, during the day. So I left it at that. My point is to the commissioners and the town residents, if we're going to be prepared for what's happening on the other side of the intercoastal, I think we need to maximize our visibility on the signs. Right now, and I'm not picking stones here, but right now Beachway Drive has 6 signs and speed bumps. Yeah, I know that's a direct access right from Woolbright Road. Hudson Avenue has 2 signs, one which is barely readable, pretty much faded, and this person was parked maybe 200 feet to the west of the existing signs. So we need to prepare ourselves more, because I've been in this fight once before, and unfortunately the public usually wins. And one of the few things we can do, we can't restrict their access to the beach, but we can restrict their parking. And we can restrict the parking allowable in town. And I think that we really need to have that addressed seriously. Let me look at my notes, see if I left anything out. Yeah, and the main thing is, you know, if that's not what the dispatcher was supposed to say to me, then we should all be on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Anyone else, public comment? Terry?
This will be the last time that you have to listen to me while you're there. But I've lived in this town for almost 27 years. I've served on the Board of Adjustments for 10 years. I served on the commission for 3 years. I serve on a bunch of county boards that are appointed by the county commission, and all of them have a chair. And you have done a fine job, in my estimation and my experience, with dealing with people, with the public. So kudos to you. Let's hope they have that plaque made by the end of the reception.
Thank you, Terry. Any other public comment? All right. Hearing none, let's move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, announcement and proclamations. The municipal election will be held on March 13th, 2018. There are 2 town commission seats open for a 3-year term. The qualified candidates are Gail Asco, Philip Bessler, and Christine DeHathis. And, the rest is in Spanish, so we'll move on. Number 4, the town commission will consider appointments to the following board positions at the April 2nd, 2018 town commission meeting. There is a board of adjustment opening for 1 regular member for a 3-year term and 2 alternates for 1-year terms. The Planning and Zoning Commission has a opening for 1 regular member for a 3-year term and 2 alternates for a 1-year term. Anyone interested must register to vote in Ocean Ridge and submit a resume and letter of interest to the town clerk by March 23rd, 2018. Incumbents are exempted from the resume and letter of interest requirement. And we're moving number 5 to the end of the meeting, so moving on, we have no public hearings.
Can we just go back to number 3 for a minute? Because I've been asked this by probably 10 people. There are 2 commission seats open. You can vote for 2 people, which seems to be some confusion out there.
That's it? Okay.
Don't want to slow you down.
I just, you did throw a road bump in there. All right, the reports. Jamie?
Thank you, Mayor. My report, as usual, is in your backup, my written report. I've got 4 topics on it this evening. I just touch on them briefly for the sake of the audience and the public and the record. The South End Drain System projects I've spoken to you about the surveying has been completed on that, and we're looking for quotes from design build vendors for some drainage enhancements down on Beachway and Dolphin Bend in that area. Based on my last report at the last public meeting, we circled back on our candidates for certified building official. We have 3 in play. We're looking at all 3 of them again and vetting them for backgrounds and offer that might be forthcoming to fill that position for an in-house position. I have a item here titled Mayor Jeff Pugh, and I put this on here because I wanted to personally thank you for all your support and a great job at being mayor and chair of the commission and all the good things you've done in my short tenure working with you, so I appreciate that.
Thanks,
From
Jamie.
a staff perspective. Finally, and maybe a little bit more because I need some discussion from you, some consensus. Probably most of you are aware we've identified some problems with some of our bridge-style beach crossovers at our public access ways, specifically at Anna Street. We have roped off that particular crossover because it's in extreme condition beyond what we feel is repairable, and we'd like to take it out. The proposal to go into that area would be looking at a treatment that's very similar to the Edith Street crossover, which is a paved pathway to a landing to steps. And we would have to work with the town engineers, DEP, and various other parties to come up with that final configuration. Related to that, the bridge-style crossover at the end, at the east end of Beachway, is also dates back to the 70s and 80s. That's a historic bridge over the dune type infrastructure, and that's had some wear and tear and maintenance issues. And in touring and looking at it with DEP, they've suggested to us that we couldn't rebuild that if we wanted to because it's built on telephone poles and kinds of things that they would never approve today. So I just want to get some feedback from the commission about how you'd like me to proceed on this. At this point in time, the most critical need is to take out the Anna Street beach crossover, the bridge steps, if you will, and consider replacing that with a path-style treatment like Edith Street. Any of these projects will come back before this commission for actual plans for any permitting and for costs associated with it. As I've mentioned here, taking out some of the problem areas can be done by our in-house staff, and then there'll be some sort of proposal to come forward to reconstruct what might be there. But I would draw your attention to Corinne Street, for example, where we have a ground level dune top path made up of tethered boards that meander over the dune more naturally through the vegetation, and that's the trend and style that DEP and feedback that I'm getting from the residents, where we might look at going in the future on the public crossovers. So I just put that out, and if there's any feedback from you or direction or consensus, first priority is looking at the Anna Street situation.
Is
So
there
with
any consideration on ADA requirements as far as the
There-
walkways?
There are two considerations. One is that conceptually, we believe the dune level pathways would be more accessible to mobilely challenged pedestrians. However, we would not be pursuing full ADA access because all of the crossovers cannot accommodate it, and it's a different permitting process under DEP, because not only would we have to address the Old Ocean or the inland side, but we would have to address how you would get people from the platforms down to the beach if such a structure were to be built. And generally speaking, our right-of-ways are not wide enough to accommodate ramps or inclines that would be conducive to wheelchairs or other kind of ADA issues. So we would not propose that we were going down that pathway, no pun intended. But just to make a more natural through the dune, through the natural vegetation crossover with a easier to maintain, less costly, and standardized pathway over following the undulation of the dune top.
So the tethered boards are they're more handicap friendly than what we have, because currently we have steps up
Well,
and steps down.
Probably the friendliest infrastructure would be a paved path like you see at Edith Street. Keep in mind that the tethered boards do potentially move slightly because they're placed on the top of the sand dune. So they could be a little problematic, but they would be easier for some people than the steps and the infrastructure that are there today. There's a lot of steps to go through to make final decisions on each of the sites, including surveying, engineering, consensus of the commission as to what kind of structure you ultimately want there, and the aesthetic of what it looks like when it's all said and done. The current structures are very dated. They're maintained continuously, but they deteriorate almost faster than they're maintained. And we've had incidents in the public where, people have tripped, or they've gotten splinters, or nails popped up, or all kinds of things that happens almost on a daily or weekly basis.
Actually, at Beachway, one of the steps fell off,
Right.
and a resident, I don't know if it was a resident, came down, and the poor woman, thank God she didn't wreck herself. She actually went to step, and there was no step there. So she went through and then tumbled.
With the moisture of the marine environment and the heating and cooling of the sun cycles, these structures actually flex and expand and contract, and that's why you constantly see the nails popping up and the wood weathering and all that. One last note about in particular, the Beachway structure. Because it's built on telephone poles, DEP would not permit building it again. We can maintain it, but as you've seen by the condition of the wood and the lumber and these issues, it's a very expensive proposition to keep it as it is versus there might be a better design down the road. But we're not close enough to give you a specific proposal there as to what that looks like.
Well, one thing you better do is be careful. The more you get this engineered, DEP approved, the more it's going to go into the fact of the safety issue, and then something that's nice and low maintenance, or it's high maintenance but low key looking, comfortable to use somewhat most of the time, to something that's built like completely out of place. I mean, a tethered path is nice and crim because the dune is a lot lower. The dunes over there, there's no way, unfortunately, there's no way to get a wheelchair down the beach over an end. I mean, there's a drop, and you have to remember just what we had here. You lose 4 feet of sand in one storm, then what? So the thing about it is, I look at it this way. If there's a way to fix Beachway and just call it a repair, rather than re-engineer the whole thing and keep the maintenance up on it, which we should be doing anyway, that would be the way to go to Beachway. On Anna Street, you go ahead and do your paving, you do something of that nature, but you're still going to have steps to get down to that beach.
Yeah, on the seaward side, there would be a landing and steps, and you would never get a wheelchair down that
So
infrastructure.
my point is that, is there any way to do this, and I know the attorney probably doesn't want to hear this, is there any way to do this to keep it underneath, like, repair? instead of
Could we use the,
going
some of the-
crazy with eight.
some of the plastic woods now instead of typical pressure-treated lumber?
Yeah, you could. What you could do is put in the budget and replace one at one every 2 or 3 months, but you're repairing them. You're not replacing. And
Right.
once you get in replacing, then I've got the charge from the town engineer. I've got the DEP give me with, all kinds of guff on what it's gonna take to do it, and then their approval takes gosh knows how long. So my point is that how bad is it? And we repaired the one on Edith, did we not, Chief Jamie? We
Oh,
repaired
we
the one on
did.
Edith, we
We've
took
done
it
a bunch
upon
of work up
ourselves.
there, yes.
And we did ourselves,
Mhm.
and just did his repair and had got it done. I just don't wanna do something that's gonna be 6 months before anybody can even use the thing. So
Yeah, that
that's,
won't happen, but to your point, the bigger ones that are kind of grandfathered in place, we'll bring back some proposals for you to consider before we do anything on it, because there are different costs and different options.
well, I kinda like sitting at the, crossover. Beachway has a nice spot to sit too, don't they?
No.
And they
I totally disagree with you. What we've created is a bridge over the dune, and the DEP's come and said we shouldn't be doing that, we're using improper materials. And they have suggested that we do this low profile, which is actually friendlier to citizens and everyone else, and you stay down on the dune. So you don't have a structure that's built up. It's gonna require huge
But it
maintenance.
depends on where you are in the Ocean Ridge and how high the dune is. The dune is completely different levels over at Anna, not Corinne, but Anna and Edith,
I
and
agree.
where we are, Beachway, yeah, you're right, you have a much lower dune. So it's not all one size fits all. So I guess what I'm saying is that you have to just take each one, but once you start doing the DEP thing, well, you can say
I think the
how long
DEP
it
was
takes.
fans of the low profile.
But it's the approval process. And now you're into engineering. I'm just saying, be careful,
What you're asking for.
so.
Why don't we just tell Jamie to go ahead and do a proposal for each one and then bring it back? 'Cause they
One
are
at a
gonna-
time and weigh out
Yeah,
the
you
issues
don't have
involved,
to-
the costs, and keeping what we have versus going with some other design.
And what the budget's gonna be for those.
The only thing I would add, and it's up to the residents of that area, the Anna Street crossover, when you're actually up in the forest there, is stunning.
Oh,
It's
it is.
beautiful. So I wouldn't necessarily want to see that whole thing paved, perhaps the ramp up and then it remains as it is, and then goes down the steps.
Well, if you're gonna do any of that, you'd have to show the commission anyway what you're gonna be doing before you approve it, so.
The Anna Street one is our most critical because of the condition of the bridge that was there, and it's the most likely to resemble a configuration like Edith Street. So if you want to see what the aesthetic of that would be, take a look at the Edith Street crossover when you get a chance and just get a feel for that, and we can discuss that at subsequent meetings to put that
Brian?
plan in place.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks. Brian, you got anything to add to that?
No, I'm sure that, it sounds like the direction is that, Jamie will look at this and make sure that we follow all state rules, county rules, and ordinances of the town, and we'll make sure we comply with all of that, see what we can come back
Of
with.
course, Mr. Attorney, of course.
That's exactly it. All right, is there anything else, Jamie?
No, that's it. Again, thank you for your service to the town and
Thank
your support of me while I've been working here. I appreciate
you.
it. Talk about the projector?
Any questions for Jamie?
Oh, yes, Commissioner Magruder would like me to mention, we're not projecting our agenda this evening. Our projection unit, which is 10 years old, has gone the way of the dinosaur, and it is burnt out and overheated and burnt out on us, and we've had several service calls, and that we believe cannot be repaired. It's a 10-year-old piece of AV equipment. You might remember about a year ago, we had a wish list of spending a lot of money to redo all the AV in here, and that ended up on the cutting room floor for other priorities, but we have quotes in on this. If you need any materials, we do have printed agendas for this meeting. Unfortunately, we discovered this problem, how acute it was, right in the middle of our lecture series for those of you who attended last week. So our speakers had to give half PowerPoint and then half interpretive dance for their subject material. But at the end of the day, it was some good information departed there. Hopefully that will be replaced the next time you meet with us at the next public meeting.
It's really important that we change that, because we had two speakers. Two of them came down from Orlando and only could do half of their presentation, and two others came up from Broward and Fort Lauderdale and only could do half of their presentation as far as the slides, and so the whole program somewhat was shortened because of that. And it was not conducive for Ocean Ridge reputation.
How much is the projector?
Roughly, we think this will come in at about $1,500 to $2,000 for a complete replacement unit.
So why not just do it?
Yeah, we've got quotes solicited now. We've had 2 service calls on this one, and both times they've been unable to fix it. And what happens, if we had it running tonight, for example, projecting the agenda, it would be on for about 15 minutes, and then all of a sudden it would just go off because the unit itself
Well, that's about how
overheats.
long this meeting's gonna take. So.
Well, no, it would go off right about now.
Yeah, right now.
Right
right
about
now,
now, okay, sorry.
the
We
plans
did
are-
meeting
we're
right
showing
then.
it. So our recommendation is we're just gonna replace it out, and I can do that under my signature level. I don't have to bring that back to you. We'll just find the best quote under our purchasing policies and get it replaced out entirely.
Okay.
And
Dr.
hopefully
Wiegand?
not have that embarrassment again.
You gotta come up, Doc. Yeah, it's another blinker. We had one last meeting, yeah.
This one was the blinker last month.
Okay,
Get that
any
one.
questions for Jamie? All right, moving on, Brian?
No report, other than it was just, it's been a real pleasure working with you.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Thank you.
You being sarcastic?
I'm
Chief?
waiting, yeah.
On behalf of the police department, I'd like to extend our thanks to you also for your public service. The police department's monthly activity report is in your package, and as a special guest, Chief Glenn Joseph from the fire department has come to answer any questions and present you some information on our fire service.
Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Glenn Joseph, Point Beach Fire Department. This will be quick. I just want to share my face so you know who I am. And some of our statistics from 2017, we ran about 292 calls in the town in the last calendar year, which represents a 43% increase from the year before. Our response times are right around 4.5 minutes, which is where they have been for a while. So we're keeping track of that. We're also monitoring that with the new Bright Line to see if that impacts our response time. So we're keeping track of those numbers as well. In the upcoming year, this year, we're looking at the biggest deal is for us is the town square, which would give us a new fire station downtown, which services your area primarily. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to go to commission, the financials on the 13th next week at 4 p.m. So we'll know whether it's going to move forward or not, and that's going to be a good day if it moves forward for us. And the other thing that might impact, we're buying 3 new medic units. They're upgraded, better ride, quieter. So we're looking to improve our service delivery to the public. Any questions for me?
It's not gonna increase the prices.
No, you're locked in 12 years or 10 years, so you're good to go.
That increases 4% automatically every year.
There you go.
That's how we got the trucks. Okay, great.
Anything for me? Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
I
for
heard
coming.
good things about you. I've only met you twice, but
Well, that's a good thing.
yeah. Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to the first reading of ordinances. Tracy, you want to?
Ordinance number 629, an ordinance of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending its Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 6, Finance, Division 2, Fees, by enacting Section 2-237, Schedule of Fees, Fines, and Costs, established by resolution, to provide for and clarify certain fees, fines, and costs may be established by a resolution of the town, providing for codification, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and an effective date.
Brian?
What this ordinance would do, if you pass it, it would give the town commission the ability to set fines, fees, and costs by resolution rather than having it actually in our code of ordinances, where it would take 2 readings to make any changes. Then the ordinance would have to be codified in Municode and things of that nature. This way, you would still be approving any fines, fees, and costs that the town would charge. However, it can just be held at 1 reading, and it's a much simpler administrative process.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Brian? All right, is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 629.
Second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Any public comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right. Now we can move on to the last item. Do we have anything else?
Any town commissioner comments?
Just waiting on the plaque,
We'll be
Jim.
in a
Just waiting on the plaque.
Plaque.
I'm waiting for the plaque. Come on.
My flag, don't miss it, leaving the building. Well, I did want to say, Jamie told me I had to prepare a speech. I went off and left it at the house, but it seems to me, I remember some years ago when you replaced Mayor Khalil, and the comment was, it should be pretty easy from this point forward. So I think you were lacking a little bit of judgment at that point in time, because it's been
I
anything
didn't
but
realize
easy.
what was coming.
And I think you've done a great job, and I've been proud for 1 year to serve behind you.
Oh,
So,
thanks very
thank you
much. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Why don't we, since we're on a roll, can we go down and just get a quick quip or comment
Sure.
from each of the commission members, and then I will present your plaque to you, okay?
Jeff, I think I've had the honor and privilege of serving with you during my complete tenure here, both on planning and zoning, and now on the town commissioner. And I'd like to say it was a great honor serving with you, a pleasure serving with you. I think you've been a great mayor, a great commissioner, and thank you very much for your service to the town. Very nice knowing you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate it.
And a good friend. And come by and fix my pool, will you?
Yeah, no problem. We'll be by tomorrow after that speech.
Jeff, I came in as a newbie about 24 months ago, and I had watched you previously in the meetings, but actually working with you, I just want to say that I just so appreciate your common sense and your love for Ocean Ridge. You merged those two into making such proper decisions that benefit the citizenry, and I don't know how we're going to replace you, frankly.
Well, thanks very much. Appreciate it, Steve.
Okay, I agree with everything everybody else has said. I remember 15 years ago, I even walked part of the town with you, and I made a very good choice when I did that. You've done a wonderful job, and you're going to be missed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Well, I just want to say, I know the Oscar nights were last night. There's a couple people I want to thank. Mainly, I want to thank the residents of Ocean Ridge, because it's been a privilege serving you for all this time. It's just something that you really see. You can make changes that benefit everybody, and it makes you feel good. So I'd like to thank the residents for that, and I'd also like to thank the staff, who every Tuesday they put up with my weekly Tuesday meetings. Sometimes a little tedious, sometimes a little, but it helped me pretty much know what was going on in the town, and from week to week, which helps out a lot when you're trying to make decisions at the end of the month. I also like to thank the chief. The reason I'd like to thank the chief is that because the one thing about the chief that everybody knows, sometimes he can be long-winded, but when you're conversing about town codes, how to police the town, we would have disagreements about that sometimes, and also the fact of code of ordinances, how to enforce ordinances, what's your opinion on my opinion. We'd have these long discussions about this, and how the town police department treats their residents, and then we'd also have discussions on how residents squabble with one another, how we handle that, but it's been a real help, because it kind of gives me the other side of the street, in other words, of how what the police are thinking when they're out there doing their job. So I want to appreciate that. And lastly, I want to thank, I'd like to thank my wife. My wife really doesn't make many meetings. In fact, in 15 years, I think she's made 4. maybe 4. But the thing is, what she's done, though, is she has put up with a total recap of every single meeting for 15 years. So I really, that was my best sounding board. She's more than ready. But so I want to really say thank you to everybody. I really do. It's been a pleasure. I mean, there were some hard times, and there have been some, times we've had to make some tough decisions. But we've made it, and we made it as a town. and that's the most important thing. So thank you, everybody, and Jamie, let's see what the plaque looks like.
It reads, "In appreciation to Mayor Jeffrey A. Pugh for your years of outstanding service, concern, and support to the town of Ocean Ridge." And we have a very beautiful rosewood gavel plaque for the mayor.
Thank you, Jamie. All right. Well, then I guess after all that, I have to say, a meeting adjourned, and thanks for coming. And we do have wine
We're
and
going to have a
refreshments in the
reception,
back.
yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Congrats.
Congrats.